Welcome to the Do 390. What we're going to do is just go through all the workings of the boat, show you where everything is and how everything works, so you've got a full understanding of your yacht. So starting off with the shore power side of things, you've got the blue cable that comes in off the pontoon that you plug into the back of the boat by the starboard steering position, and then that feeds down into the starboard aft cabin, and as you lie in the bunk and look upwards, you'll see there's the circuit breakers for the 240 volt side of things. So you've got the circuit breaker for the hot water, you've got the circuit breaker to isolate the 240 volt sockets, and you've got the circuit breaker to isolate the battery charger. All the 240 volt side will then just run automatically off that, so the only way of isolating any of those sockets is to actually switch off those individual circuit breakers. Then on the 12 volt side of things, you've got the two battery switches down on the companionway steps, and those running horizontal are switched on, and if you turn them vertically, they'll anti-clockwise, they will be switched off. You can leave both batteries on all the time, so you don't need to worry about draining down your engine battery. There is a splitting diode in the circuit, so you cannot accidentally run down your engine battery from the domestic circuit, so that you can just leave both batteries on all the time. So if you come into the aft cabin, either the port side or the starboard side, you can get access to the panels on either side. And inside here you'll see, first of all, you'll see the engine battery. So you can see the engine start battery there. And then you've got the battery charger. And if you look on the battery charger, you'll see there's a green light there. So that just gives you a good indication that the battery charger is working. And then you've got various other relays and fuses for engine fans. If you then come up to the control panel for the 12 volt side, this panel here at the chart table controls all the 12 volt side of things for the boat. So if you just press the panel there, you can see that flashes up the LCD screen, and then you can control. If you press the sailboat there, it gives you just basic information about the boat, date, time, that sort of thing, temperature. Then you can click on the fuel pump and that gives you the total fuel level. Then if you press on the water droplet, that tells you how much water you've got in the tank. So you've got two tanks on the boat. You've got your total water level there, 430, so that gives you the total amount of litrage on board. And then tank 1 is 250, tank 2 is 180. So that tells you the engine battery, and then you can just scroll through and you've got your service battery, voltage, and then you've got your bow thruster. The option is for the bow thruster on this boat. And then information there about the boat, the date, languages. And then very simply, at the control panel, you can see the various buttons and what everything does, so very clearly indicated. So you can press the navigation lights, and you can see down here you've got your red and the green at the bow, and you've got your white at the stern. If you press it again, steaming light comes on, so you've got your deck level light and your steaming light. Press it again, and that shows that you've got your anchor light on up there. And then if you press it last one more time, that switches everything off, so it just scrolls through as you need it. Deck lights, you don't have deck lights, so deck lights is a blank, and then you've got autopilot instruments, windlass, hi-fi system, saloon lights, cabin lights, water system. Bilge pump's automatic on this boat as well, so you can press that, leave that on, and there's a float switch in the bilge which will activate the bilge pump if it needs to be. Galley fridge, and the cockpit fridge is also blank as well. You can see here the shore power light, so the shore power light is switched on. Generator, as you don't have a generator, that's irrelevant. An inverter, likewise, if you don't have an inverter, so that's also irrelevant. If you open up this panel, you'll find the VHF, and the Webasto heating control unit. Then if you open up the cupboard, you'll find the Raymarine control boxes, and on the other side you'll find the Raymarine AIS. There's a locker at the chart table beneath the instrument panel which holds most of the electronics or electrical devices, fuses, circuit breakers, that sort of thing. And you have various fuses which are all clearly labelled. As you go into the starboard aft cabin, you've got the fuel tank underneath the mattress, and you can see there just the red handle there, that's the fuel shut-off valve. So if there's a problem with the engine, you need to shut off the fuel to the engine, then you can just close that valve. Then you've got the pipework supplying the fuel to the engine, and then at the very back of the boat you've got more hot water pipes, cold water pipes, and some ducting for the engine fan. And the only thing of real interest in here is where the battery goes for the ignition on the barbecue at the back of the boat. So you've got the two domestic batteries just inboard of the diesel tank, and then just on the inside of the wooden panel there, that's the pump for the Webasto warm air heating. You can see the main domestic fuse. So that is the large fuse which protects the whole of the boat's electrics. So if you lose all power to the boat and the battery switches are on, then this is one place to check and make sure that fuse is intact. So if you remove the panel at the very back of the port aft cabin, you'll find various seacocks which are all for the cockpit drains and the galley sink on the transom, as well as the automatic and manual bilge pump. In the back there you'll also find the Webasto heater. So that's where the heating system is fitted. So as you look inside the engine compartment, at the very back you'll see the water filter, which you can also access from the port aft cabin. So just take off that clear lid to access the strainer. Then on the top you'll see where you can top up the oil should you need to. You'll see the dipstick there with the yellow handle, and then just behind it is the fuel pump. So if you needed to pump fuel into the injectors, that's the manual lift pump for the fuel supply. Just in front of that, you'll see a little lever with a stop sign on it. That's emergency stop for the engine should the electronic panel out on deck fail. And at the very front, you can see access for the raw water impeller, the alternator, and the alternator belt. So through the access in the port aft cabin into the engine compartment, you'll see the seawater raw water inlet seacock, which is currently on. You'll also see the raw water strainer there in the top corner of the engine compartment. Access to the engine from the starboard aft cabin gives you the gearbox oil dipstick, so you can check the oil in the gearbox. You've also got access to pump out oil from the sump. You've got the oil filter there you can see as well, and you've got the fuel filter as well there. And again you can see the dipstick and the fuel pump.